प्रेजेंटेड बाय ईबिक्स कैश। हर खुशी के लिए काफी है।
Good evening and welcome. You're with us here on Business Today. I'm Abha Bakaya. Let's take you through the headlines. An emotional post-IPO exit at Zomato. Co-founder Gaurav Gupta leaves after 6 years. Analysts say the company is robust enough to remain unaffected. Indices end off days peak in choppy trade. Sensex up 69 points at 54,247. Nifty up 24 points to close at 17,380. Z Entertainment up 40%. Major decision on prices of petrol and diesel likely on Friday. GST Council to decide on bringing fuel prices under the GST regime. Fireworks expected between the centre and states. India and Singapore to link fast payment systems UPI and Pay Now. RBI calls it a significant milestone for development of cross-border payments between the two countries. Apple's Big Tech-tember event kicks off in a short while from now. New iPhones and devices to be announced tonight. Exactly 2 months after Zomato went public, one of its co-founders and top executives has quit. The surprise announcement of Gaurav Gupta's exit was made early this morning. What makes the exit interesting is the fact that Gupta was the public face of the recently concluded Zomato public issue.
Buy one and you get one free.
The company this delivery man works for just raised nearly 9,500 crore rupees from its landmark public issue. And the public face of that IPO was Gaurav Gupta, one of the instrumental figures behind the hugely successful fundraising effort. He had joined Zomato in 2015 and was elevated as Chief Operating Officer in 2018 and as a founder in 2019. He was the face of the company in the run-up to the IPO, leading discussions with investors and the media. Gupta, or GG as he is known within the company, sent an email to colleagues stating that he was taking a new turn in his life and will be starting a new chapter, taking a lot from the last 6 years at Zomato. He added that Zomato had a great team to take it forward and said that it was time for him to take an alternate path in his journey.
Not completely surprised, because I think the founders and the co-founders in the startup enterprise, they typically have the habit of making into the another startup after the one is established. So I think okay.
Earlier today, GG sent the following email to everyone at Zomato. All, I am in love with Zomato and will always be. Zomato CEO Dipinder Goyal wished Gupta the best for his future and even hoped that the two would remain friends amidst reports that the parting was not friendly. The exit comes just days after Zomato exited the grocery delivery and the nutraceuticals business, both launched by Gaurav Gupta. Both had been struggling and had to be shut down. Reportedly, even some of the overseas expansion he had been pushing did not work out. This had, according to reports, led to tensions between Gupta and Dipinder Goyal. The reaction in stock markets was immediate, with Zomato falling nearly 5%. However, the stock recovered to close to at around Rs 144.
Business model of the company is quite asset-light model. They have successfully built this particular team, and I think would like to continue with that part. So I don't think that one person exit would make a large difference.
According to reports, Gupta's holding in Zomato earned him a cool 179 crore rupees in the public issue, ensuring he has enough funds to try his own hands at entrepreneurship. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
Now, the big Apple event is finally here, and while it streams from Apple Park, I'm joined by our tech editor Ayush Alawadi, who's tuned into the event live to get you all the latest Apple updates. And Ayush, it seems that the event has begun just as we speak.
Absolutely, Abba, and the event has just started sharp, of course, at 10:30, and I'm watching the stream as all of us are tuned in to the Business Today TV show. And the big question we all have really that's on all of our minds is what can we really expect? Because this event seems to be all about three products, and we've discussed it on this show a long time ago, which is essentially the iPhone 13 lineup, the AirPods 3 perhaps, and of course the Apple Watch Series 7. If you're in the market for an iPad mini and maybe, well, a new MacBook, well, that might be at a subsequent event, and that we'll find out very soon. But the big complaint, Abha, that a lot of us in the tech community have is that a lot of these updates that we're expecting from Apple seem to be incremental and not necessarily monumental. So the question mark really about Apple events nowadays is two things. The first thing being the fact that there's a lack of innovation from Apple. Some of the features that we're expecting today, for instance, the 120 hertz display on the Pro models, is something Android devices and Android manufacturers did all the way back in 2017. So, we're hoping that there is some sort of innovation there. And if you're in the market for a new iPhone and you just purchased one last year, well, then I'd say wait it out and maybe wait for an upgrade a little later. But we'll know as we watch the event what really comes up from Apple Park.
All right, excited to hear what some of those incremental changes will be. Will today's announcement, Ayush, take the focus of all of the legal and regulatory issues Apple's been facing of late?
But that's an interesting question, because no matter what they announce today, the tip of the iceberg seems to be the recent judgment in the Epic versus Apple lawsuit. And that's not all. They face legal and regulatory issues in South Korea, in Japan, and of course also in the EU, and now also in India, as we've reported on Business Today. But the Epic versus Apple lawsuit seems to be the bone of contention. What really happened in that, in a nutshell, is that a court in the US ruled that Apple's practice of charging the Apple tax, so to speak, or the 30% commission that they charge on the App Store, well, I'll just explain what that is for our viewers. If you go on the App Store and you purchase an app and it costs 100 rupees, well, then Apple until now would charge 30 rupees commission on that, and the developer would get only 70 rupees. Epic took Apple to court for this. Now, the court ruled that this whole practice and the way the App Store is and the rules have actually been created by Apple is not an illegal monopoly, so to speak, but the fact that you have to pay within the App Store has sort of been quashed, and Apple really has to ease their payment rules. So now, effectively, unless there is an appeal by Apple, though Epic is appealing the ruling because they wanted to talk about the predatory practice or the abuse of dominance by Apple in this particular ecosystem of things that Apple has created, this closed wall garden. But, well, now based on that ruling, you can have an external payment mechanism. That means you can purchase the app perhaps outside of the Apple App Store. And this really is monumental in terms of what's happening in big tech, a David versus Goliath fight, developers versus big tech companies. And that's something we'll be tuned into on Business Today.
What about the concerns, Ayush, surrounding privacy, security, and how is Apple responding to some of those concerns?
So, Abba, it's an interesting question because Apple has always positioned themselves as the bastion of privacy. That's been one of the tenets that they really rely on. But the issue over here is iOS 15 is the update that a lot of iPhone and iPad users, in fact, they are talking about iPad OS at the event as we speak right now. And the update that's coming up in iOS 15, a few days ago, there was talk about a feature which was to essentially with the intention of preventing child exploitation. Now, what that essentially meant was that Apple was thinking of going through your photos on your iOS devices, and in an encrypted way, in a sort of in what they call neural hashes, they would have been able to flag off if there was any sort of content which was related to child pornography or child exploitation. But that sort of move, after privacy advocates really were up in arms about how that goes against what Apple stands for, they have backtracked on that and they have delayed, well, the release of that feature. But also when it comes to security, we knew what was happening with the Pegasus leaks as well. And the recent update, which actually a lot of us and anyone tuned in should definitely update their iOS devices to 14.8, because that is the only way that Apple would be beefing up the security around their iOS devices. So when it comes to privacy and security, is this the Apple of yesteryear? They still have a very strong stand on it. It's only a matter of interpretation, Abha, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of announcements actually are made at this event. But like we said, we sort of know what the devices will be like, and there will be a subsequent event in the days to come.
Ayush, thanks so much for joining us. With that, the Apple streaming ongoing as we speak, and important updates expected later on tonight. Now, a Chennai-based tech company is going for the big kill in the US stock markets. Freshworks, a company founded just 11 years ago by two techies, has filed for an IPO with the US Securities and Exchange Commission. It's planning on raising nearly $1 billion. This will value the company at $9 billion. Freshworks plans on issuing shares in the range of $28 to $32, and the company follows a dual headquarter model with one in San Mateo, California, and the other in Chennai. Hyderabad-based Vijaya Diagnostic Centres Limited made an unimpressive debut on the NSE with just a 2% premium to the issue price of 531 rupees per share. The company's IPO was subscribed 4.54 times. And in a sharp contrast, shares of specialty chemicals company Ami Organics made a spectacular entry on the stock market Tuesday. Ami Organics share listed at 910 rupees on the NSE. That's 49% over its issue price of 610 rupees per share. And the IPO of components manufacturer Sansera Engineering opened today. Again, a lukewarm response by the end of day one. It was subscribed 0.53 times. This issue is open till the 16th of September. The markets today ending a volatile session with marginal gains on the benchmarks, and Nifty hitting a fresh life high in morning trade before a bout of profit booking at higher levels was seen, closing up in fact 120 odd points at about 58,247, and that's Nifty for you as well, just marginally higher in trade. So we did see a fairly volatile session. We saw profit booking at higher levels, dragging it lower, and then finally settling up at 17,380. Some of the gainers and losers, well, the big gainer today, and that was of course a stock in New Z Entertainment. That's the biggest one day, that's an intraday gain that we've seen on Z Entertainment, 40% higher on that stock. And remember, this is after news that the largest shareholder of the company had sought removal of the current MD, Puneet Goenka, and two more independent directors from the board. Shares of other group companies as well rallied in trade today, as you can see there on your screen. We saw 20% up on Z-Learn, Z-Media, and there are also reports that Rakesh Jhunjhunwala has bought 50 lakh shares of the company. Other gainers today, let's pull those up for you. We've got IndusInd up a solid 4%, HCL Tech, Hero, Adani Ports, Tata Motors bringing up the gainers list today. And let's take a look at some of those that didn't quite contribute to the party. Ultratech, HDFC, BPCL, Nestle, and Tata Steel were a bit of a drag on the index. The Goods and Services Tax GST Council meeting on 17th of September includes a proposal to bring fuel prices under the GST regime. The move comes after the Kerala High Court recently asked that such a proposal be considered. Fuels like petrol, diesel, natural gas, crude oil and ATF have been kept out of the GST purview because they are major revenue sources for both the centre and state governments. Currently, states charge VAT on fuel while centre gets its revenue from excise duty. The taxes on fuel are more than half the price. If fuels are brought under GST, prices are expected to fall. Also, some states will gain while others will lose. Rahul Srivastava joining us on this. Rahul, take us through the implications for the centre and the state.
For the first time since GST kicked in on the 1st of July 2017, a proposal for including subsuming fuels, all five of them, into the GST regime is on the table. Primarily at this moment, the prices of fuels are at a level which is unprecedented. And there has been a clamor that these fuels should be included in the GST because that's perhaps the only way to bring relief for the consumer. But since this is happening only because the Kerala High Court on the 21st of June this year sent a representation to the GST Council and asked it whether you can consider the proposals, whether they can be brought in, it has been added. And that is why I'll say that not really good news is likely from the GST Council meeting on the 17th of September in Lucknow, primarily because the states and center, especially in the wake of the pandemic, lower GST generation, and also the expenses they are incurring, are in no position to let go of the kind of revenue they get from fuels and even say alcohol, which is again not part of the GST. And that is why what one expects is that it may face opposition from the state and the center may remain reluctant, especially those states where the fuels are coming from, because it's a consumption tax compared to the states which are consuming it and earning the taxes. There might be disparities between the earnings of the state, and that is why no good news likely on the 17th.
All right, thanks Rahul for giving us some perspective on that. We'll watch out for those developments. Now, next July onwards, you can shop till you drop in Singapore and simply pay through the Bheem app in your handset. Imagine no converting your rupees to Singapore dollars before you fly out of India. Making this possible is an agreement between the RBI and its Singapore counterpart. The deal will link the payment systems of the two countries, India's UPI and Singapore's PayNow. This will enable users in each country to make instant low-cost fund transfers without being charged the high commissions of other payment systems. Today was the third straight day that the Reliance infrastructure share hit the upper circuit in stock markets. According to Chairman Anil Ambani, the company will receive 7,100 crore rupees from Delhi Metro as settlement after the Supreme Court order. This amount, he says, will be used to pay the company's debt of more than 14,000 crore rupees. Speaking at the AGM of Reliance ADAG companies, Ambani also said that Reliance Infra has 15,000 crore rupees of claims pending before various forums and that the amount would help the company become debt-free. In other corporate news, Vistara Airlines Chief Commercial Officer Vinod Kannan will take over as CEO of the airline from January 2022. Incumbent CEO Leslie Thang, who led the full-service airline for more than 4 years, will move back to Singapore Airlines. Hindustan Aeronautics Limited will begin manufacture of parts of the Rolls-Royce Adore aircraft engines for the global market. The two companies entered a pact today. This follows a deal between Rolls-Royce and HAL during Aero India 2021 to establish a maintenance center for the Adore engine at Bengaluru. This will support international military customers and operators. The country's largest e-pharmacy, Farm Easy, is planning an IPO. The company is looking at raising $200 million in primary funding ahead of the public issue. The e-pharmacy is expected to be valued at around $6 billion after the primary funding round. Now, a day after retail inflation slipped to a 4-month low in August, some bad news on the wholesale inflation front. Data released by the government shows that the wholesale price index, or the WTI, rose by 11.39% versus 11.16% in July. The rise was powered by an increase in prices of non-food items such as fuel, oilseeds and minerals. The index has been in double digits this entire year. The huge difference in the retail and wholesale numbers are because the weightage of the retail index is higher for food items. It's skewed towards manufactured products in the wholesale index. Offices lying empty for all these months are slowly filling up again. Employees are dusting off their office attire after working from home for more than a year. However, getting office cubicles filled up isn't proving to be an easy task.
Empty spaces, abandoned places, But as a wise man once said, the show must go on. And for the past year and a half, the show has been going on from home. Now the action is slowly shifting back to office. Wipro chairman Rishad Premji tweeted his company's return to office work starting the 12th of September. Ever conscious about the new standards of office decorum, the company also released a video explaining the new social distancing norms to employees. Earlier, TCS had announced that it would have 80% of its workforce back in office by the end of this year. Among the other tech companies, Infosys is a little ambivalent and is allowing its employees to continue working from home. HCL Tech has just 3% employees coming to office. Microsoft, meanwhile, is adamant it will not pressure its employees to return to office, with its CEO, Satya Nadella, calling those doing so short-sighted.
Employees are asking for more flexible options, owing to the fact that right now we are still not very sure as to whether we have passed the second wave, whether we are entering the third wave. So somewhere there is a comfort zone that is coming into play.
Some employees have made their choices known, preferring greater flexibility, lower commuting stress, greater savings, and a better work-life balance to the rigors of working from office. Though their choice does entail lesser movement, a degree of social isolation, screen fatigue, and frequent communication gaps. What comes as a shock is that a number of employees are foregoing promotions and raises to keep working from home.
There are situations where candidates sometimes want to take a pay cut, or they even are okay with getting less salary, even if that is work from home, for the fact that it eases them and it is something that they are now used to. But I do believe that that attitude will change as the boredom sits in and as people are less scared of the outside situation that we are in, and people will get out of the house and they will eventually make it to the office.
If companies have to attract talent, on the contrary, they will have to offer them flexibility. What we are hearing is that employees are being offered work-life balance, flexible hours, remote working to ensure that they're able to join the companies.
Given there's been no precedence ever, many companies have turned this into a rare opportunity to experiment with and tweak their employee engagement models. There are some like banks who have security and regulatory compulsions, who have mandated employees to return to work. But others, more so tech and e-commerce companies, may see a more permanent work from home culture. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
That's all we have time for here on the show tonight. Thanks so much for watching.